Afternoon, everybody. Today is 3/21/20. I'm John Christie, licensed professional counselor. Today, I wanted to address what I'm working with my clients about mentally surviving Corona/COVID-19. There are many effects of something like this. This is a major world event. Uh, some of the effects are economic. I'm not an economist, so we're not going to be talking about those, but certainly there are definite economic consequences of what's going on. We're here to talk more about the health ones, not the physical ones. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to be talking about those, but we are going to be talking on what we would typically call the emotional effects. If you've watched some of my other videos, you realize that we're not going to really be focusing on the emotional effects because we want to know how an event like this is going to affect our thinking. If you've watched my other videos, you know I'm a cognitive therapist, and that's what we need to understand and control, how this is going to affect what's going on in my brain. And as we've said before, what happens is thinking. That's the first mechanism. Now we have this idea that the virus is now the event. The event comes into our body and our brain thinks about. Remember the T effect. It thinks. Thinking affects the E, emotion. E, emotion, affects the A, action. There we have our TEA that we've been working with before. And since we're focusing on our thinking, we need to remember those elements of thought. When our brain thinks about something, including this virus and what's happening, it thinks about it in all ways. It's very plastic, neuroplasticity. It will think about what's happening in a negative way. This is clearly lots of negative things are happening, but your brain, in and of itself as an organ, will also think about what positive things are happening as a result of what's going on in the world, this event. Remember, there are also the internal, external elements of how your brain thinks about something. How this, in this case, this virus is affecting me personally. Those are my internal thoughts. How this is affecting other things and people around me. Those would be external thoughts. And your brain does both. So we want to be conscious of both when we are being balanced in our thinking. And then, of course, that last continuum is practical versus emotional. This event will have practical and emotional consequences. Already has and will continue. So we want to make sure that we understand all of those. But let's get into thinking, right? We had said before that what happens with thinking is it's red zone first. Your brain is designed to protect you. So what are the thoughts that come first? Negative, because negative thoughts protect you. And they're very easy, and they do come first. And since this is an emergency situation, there are lots. There's no shortage of negative thinking, but that's what we have to make sure that we're controlling, because some negative thoughts are appropriate, like I'm not going to go out as much, I'm not going to be touching as many things. Those are all fine and practical. Those are what we call appropriate negative thoughts. And then we have some inappropriate negative thoughts. I had someone in the office the other day who was getting themselves very spun up over having to work, and started out very practical. I don't want to work in this kind of environment. Other people are touching things I have to touch. And then it started to get emotional. My bosses are making me work. They don't care about me. My boss doesn't care whether I live or die. These are the branches of thought that we have to be very, very careful of, that we don't go down. Those do not help at all. So we want to have balance in our thoughts, and some of the balance that I've worked with people so far are their own personal positive thoughts, right? They are very subjective. Just because I think more family time is a positive thing doesn't mean everyone's going to think that's a positive thought, but you'll have your own specific subjective positive thoughts about this. Mine are more family time, slower pace, time for rest. These are some concepts, obviously, ideas I've also heard from my clients. They're telling me some of these things when they can get over into the positive side. There's more time at home. It's peaceful. Like we said, there's more time just on introspective thought. And if we can see those things as good things, we can survive this thing. Certainly, like we said, there are appropriate negative thoughts. People are worrying about money, where it's going to come from. But I'm not your accountant, so I can't help with those. And ultimately, some of that stuff is out of our control. But our thinking, especially our emotional thinking, is completely in our control. So we must remember to keep it in that, to understand we control that, and we're going to control it. Major world event. This is a major world event, much like World War II. It is going to change. How is this going to change? It's going to be a complete reset And the reset, economic reset, obviously, things are going to have to change. I hope they change. That something happens to make that situation a little bit better. But this is going to be a major reset personally in our thinking. How are we going to think about this event? How are we going to let it affect our thinking? And one of the things that I've been working with clients is this idea of perspective. So let's go out 5 years. We are definitely going to be talking about the pandemic of 2020, 5, 10, 15 years. How would you like to talk about it? When you review it in 5 years, were you calm? Were you positive? How did you get through it? Or are you going to look back on this time and say, I was a mess, I was freaking out? This is important to help your brain conceptualize past this and how to get through it. So this is definitely an opportunity to think about resetting your thinking. Go through, look at the other videos. Go through of what categories, what elements are you working with, and and how are you potentially out of balance, and to get yourself back into balance. It does explain more. There's a book coming out in a couple months called "I Don't Care How You Feel, I Care How You Think." Because that's the ultimate thing. We can all run around telling our feelings, but if we're not communicating and understanding our thinking, we're not doing the full job. So leave a comment below if this was helpful. Then subscribe. I'll be trying to put out new content with things happening so fast as they are today. But God bless, and control your thinking.